Look, I'm not saying the Galactic Council was stupid, exactly. Let's call them confidently misinformed. The kind of misinformed that comes from 10,000 years of unchallenged superiority and zero actual field experience with species that solve problems by hitting them really, really hard. The Council had been doing its thing for longer than humans had been writing things down, which, to be fair, wasn't that impressive, since we spent a good chunk of our history drawing stick figures on cave walls and calling it art. They had fancy energy shields, plasma weapons that could vaporize a mountain, and ships that made Einstein weep into his theoretical physics textbooks. And then, there were humans. Recently uplifted, still figuring out which end of a fusion reactor was the dangerous one, spoiler, all of them, and piloting ships that the Council's engineers described as charmingly suicidal in their official reports. The unofficial reports used stronger language. Commander Victor Reeves stood on the bridge of the UESN Defiance, watching the Council Armada approach with the kind of calm that came from either deep meditation or complete resignation to fate. Victor was definitely in the second category. "Sir," Lieutenant Casey Brennan said from the tactical station, her voice carrying that special tone that meant bad news was incoming. "They're hailing us, again." "How polite of them," Victor said, settling into the captain's chair that had been designed by someone who apparently hated human spines. "Put them through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing Ambassador Threxlon of the Vexenari Collective. Threxlon looked like someone had crossed a praying mantis with a philosophy professor and given the result a superiority complex. His chitinous faceplates shifted in what Victor had learned to recognize as disdain. "Primitive vessel," Threxlon began, because apparently the Council had never heard of diplomatic niceties. "You are in violation of Council space. Surrender immediately, and your punishment will be merciful." Victor exchanged glances with his XO, Commander Hassan al-Rashid, who was trying very hard not to laugh. "Define merciful," Victor said. "You will be permitted to evacuate to your escape pods before we claim your vessel for study. We are most curious how such a crude design manages to achieve faster-than-light travel without immediately killing everyone aboard." "That's the neat part," Hassan muttered. "It does try to kill everyone aboard. We just got stubborn about it." Threxlon's translator picked that up. His facial plates shifted in what might have been confusion. "Stubborn?" Victor leaned forward. "Ambassador, I'm going to level with you. We received your ultimatum. We read your 47-page document about how primitive we are, how our technology is quaintly dangerous, and how we should be grateful the Council is willing to guide us away from our barbaric military practices. We even appreciated the footnotes. Then you comprehend the futility of resistance." "Oh, absolutely. Which is why I wanted to chat before things get awkward." Victor pulled up a data pad. "See, the thing about humans is that we're really good at one specific thing." "Primitive violence?" Threxlon said. It wasn't a question. "Well, yes, but I was going to say, reading the room." Victor smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "You brought 42 ships to capture one human frigate. That's either massive overkill or you recognize that this primitive frigate took out your listening post in the Kepler 442 system last month." The silence on the other end of the comm was delicious. "That was you?" Threxlon's voice climbed an octave. "That facility had military-grade shielding. Class 7 defensive matrices. It was designed to withstand— Yeah, designed to withstand conventional plasma bombardment. We read the specs." Victor waved dismissively. "Cute shields. Real pretty when they light up. Did you know they're completely useless against kinetic weapons?" Hassan pulled up a tactical display. "Specifically against tungsten slugs traveling at approximately 3% the speed of light." "That's—" Threxlon's translator seemed to be struggling. "That's not possible. The energy requirements alone are achievable," Victor interrupted. "If you're willing to strap what is essentially a giant magnetic accelerator to your ship and not worry too much about things like safety margins or sane engineering practices." "You're describing a railgun," Threxlon said slowly. "We call them MAC cannons. Magnetic acceleration cannons. And before you ask, yes, the name is cooler than railgun, and yes, we have 7 of them on this ship alone. The Council Armada had stopped advancing. Victor noticed that detail with satisfaction. But railguns are primitive technology, Threxlon protested. Kinetic weapons were abandoned millennia ago. They're inefficient, require enormous power, and lack the elegance of directed energy weapons. Sure, Victor agreed cheerfully. They also punch through your shields like they're not even there, can't be deflected by magnetic fields, and hit with enough force to violate several laws of physics that we're pretty sure we didn't sign. Hassan was grinning now. Sir, their lead ship is charging weapons. How aggressive of them. Victor turned back to the screen. Ambassador, I'm going to give you a demonstration. Not because I'm required to, but because I'm a nice guy, and because, frankly, we've been looking for an excuse to test these things at full power. You wouldn't dare. Weapons, Victor said calmly, cutting off the transmission. Target the asteroid cluster at bearing 227. Locked, Brennan confirmed. Fire Mach 1, full charge. The Defiance shuddered. That was the thing about kinetic weapons. They had recoil. Lots of recoil. The kind of recoil that made engineers cry, and physicists write angry letters about action and reaction. For 3 seconds, nothing seemed to happen. The asteroid cluster hung in space, minding its own business, completely unaware that several thousand tons of tungsten were heading its way at a velocity that made fast seem inadequate. Then the lead asteroid exploded. Not exploded in the fun movie way. Exploded in the converted instantly into a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated debris and fundamental physics lessons way. The shockwave took out the next 3 asteroids. The fragments from those took out another dozen. Sweet merciful void, someone on the Council fleet said. Their comms were apparently still open. Mach 2 through Mach 7 are ready to fire, Brennan reported. And sir, engineering wants me to tell you that if we fire all 7 simultaneously, there's a non-zero chance we'll knock ourselves into a spin. How non-zero? Chief Kowalski used the phrase, we'll be doing barrel rolls whether we like it or not. Victor considered this. Seems like a tomorrow problem. Hail the Council fleet. Threxlon's face reappeared on screen. He looked significantly less smug than before. That was 1 shot, Victor said pleasantly. We have 6 more ready to go, and I've got a trigger-happy weapons officer who's been playing targeting simulators for the past 3 weeks. Now, you brought 42 ships. We did the math. 7 shots won't take out your whole fleet, but they'll make a very convincing statement about what happens to the first 7 ships that don't turn around. This is madness, Threxlon said. Your weapons are as likely to destroy yourselves as... Yeah, we covered that. We got stubborn about it. Victor leaned back. Here's the thing, Ambassador. You've been cruising around the galaxy with your fancy shields and your energy weapons, and nobody's challenged you because everyone plays by the same rules. Plasma weapons, energy shields, polite little space battles that follow the approved Council doctrine. Hassan picked up the thread. We didn't get the memo about the rules. We still think space combat should be about throwing the biggest, fastest rocks we can manage. You're describing prehistoric warfare, Threxlon said. Yep. And you know what? It turns out that a caveman with a big enough rock can still ruin your day, fancy shields or not. Brennan was watching the tactical display. Sir, their ships are repositioning. Looks like Yes, they're forming a defensive perimeter. Smart. Victor nodded approvingly. Ambassador, I'm going to make this simple. You can fight us, and we can find out exactly how many of your ships survive having tungsten thrown at them at relativistic speeds. Or, and hear me out on this, you could acknowledge that humanity's primitive approach to warfare is actually really effective against enemies who've forgotten how to fight anything that doesn't follow the rules. The Council does not negotiate with... Let me put it another way. Victor's voice lost its humor. Your listening post in the Kepler system? We took it out because it was spying on a human colony world. Our colony. Our people. You want to know what happens when you threaten humans? We get creative. He gestured to the view screen showing the destroyed asteroid cluster. That was creative. We can get more creative. We've got engineers down in the bay right now working on something they're calling Project Yeet. It involves strapping fusion warheads to tungsten penetrators. That's insane, Threxelon protested. That's humanity. We're the species that looked at nuclear weapons and thought, but what if we made them faster? Victor smiled again. We're also the species that petitioned the Council for peaceful trade relationships 17 times and got ignored every single time because we were too primitive to be worth talking to. The Council has protocols. The Council has bureaucracy. Victor interrupted. We have physics. Now, I'm going to give you a choice, and I'm only going to make this offer once. Turn your fleet around. Go back to the Council. Tell them that humans are happy to trade, happy to talk, happy to share technology and be part of the galactic community. But tell them this too. We're not going to be anyone's primitives. We're not going to be studied like lab specimens. And we're sure as hell not going to surrender our ships just because you ask nicely. Hassan pulled up another display. And Ambassador? Before you make your decision, you should know that the Defiance isn't the only human ship in this sector. We've got 3 more frigates burning hard on intercept vectors. They'll be here in... He checked the timer. 6 minutes. Each one equipped with the same weapon systems. Brennan added helpfully. That's 28 Mac cannons total. We did the math on that too. It's not pretty for you. Threxelon stared at the tactical display. His facial plates worked silently for several seconds. This is unprecedented, he finally said. Yeah, we're good at that too. The Council will hear of this. I'm counting on it. Victor stood up from the captain's chair. Tell them that humans are offering peaceful cooperation. Tell them we've got technology that might actually be useful. Turns out kinetic weapons are really good at clearing debris fields and mining operations too. Tell them we're willing to share. But also, tell them that if they want to keep treating us like we're nothing, they're going to find out exactly why Earth's history books are mostly about wars. There was a long pause. In the background, Victor could hear the Defiance systems humming. The Mac cannons were still charged, still ready. Somewhere in engineering, Chief Kowalski was probably running worst-case scenarios and drinking coffee that could strip paint. I will convey your message, Threxelon said finally, but I cannot guarantee the Council's response. Fair enough, we can't guarantee ours either. Victor shrugged. That's the fun of first contact, right? Nobody knows how it's going to end. The transmission cut out. The Council fleet held position for another 30 seconds, long enough for Victor to start wondering if they'd have to actually open fire. And then, slowly, they began turning away. They're withdrawing, Brennan reported, surprise evident in her voice. All ships breaking formation and... Yeah, they're leaving the sector. Hassan let out a breath he'd apparently been holding. Did we just win a space battle by being too crazy to fight? I prefer to think of it as winning through aggressive negotiation, Victor said. But yeah, essentially. The bridge crew erupted in relieved laughter. Victor let them have their moment before hitting the ship-wide intercom. Attention all hands. This is the captain. The Council fleet has withdrawn. Stand down from combat stations. And someone tell Chief Kowalski he can stop running those catastrophic failure scenarios. We didn't have to fire all 7 Macs at once. The response from engineering was immediate and profane. Victor grinned. Sir, Brennan said, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Already? News travels fast. Victor settled back into his chair. Let's hear it. Admiral Patricia Cortez appeared on screen. She looked tired, which was her default state, but she was smiling. Commander Reeves, I just watched your little standoff with the Council. Well done. Thank you, ma'am, though I should mention we were bluffing about the other 3 frigates. I know. That's what made it impressive. Cortez leaned forward. The Council just sent an official communication. They want to open diplomatic channels. Real ones this time, not just, we'll let you know when you're ready to join civilization nonsense. Victor raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Apparently nothing motivates diplomacy quite like the threat of being hit with telephone poles traveling at 3% of light speed. Cortez's smile widened. They're calling your weapons concerningly effective. The diplomatic corps is treating that as high praise. And Project Yeet? On hold, thank God. The engineers were actually serious about that, and the safety board was having collective panic attacks. Cortez shook her head. Look, Victor, I need you to understand something. You just changed humanity's position in the galaxy. For the past 20 years, we've been the new kids, the primitives, the species everyone tolerates but nobody respects. You changed that. We got lucky, Victor said. If they'd called our bluff, they didn't, because it wasn't entirely a bluff. We do have ships with kinetic weapons that can punch through their shields. We do have engineers crazy enough to strap fusion warheads to tungsten penetrators if someone tells them it can't be done. That's humanity's advantage. We're innovative because we're too new to know what's impossible. Hassan snorted. Also because we're slightly unhinged. That too, Cortez agreed. Get your ship back to Earth, Commander. There's going to be a lot of talking in the next few weeks, and they want you there for it. Apparently the Council wants to meet the human who threatens with prehistoric weapons. I'm going to need that on a business card, Victor said. The transmission ended. Victor looked around the bridge at his crew, all of them young, all of them from a species that had only discovered faster-than-light travel 30 years ago, all of them grinning like idiots. Well, he said, I guess we're diplomats now. Diplomats with railguns, Brennan said. The best kind, Hassan added. Victor couldn't argue with that. 3 weeks later, the Galactic Council formally invited humanity to join as a full-member species. The invitation included a strongly worded request that humans share their kinetic weapons technology for defensive purposes, and a somewhat less strongly worded request that they please stop coming up with new weapon concepts that gave the Council's military advisors stress headaches. Humanity accepted the invitation. Then, because humans are humans, they immediately started working on Project Yeet 2. This time it's personal. The Council learned an important lesson that year. Never underestimate a species just because their technology looks primitive. Evolution doesn't care about elegance. It cares about what works. And sometimes, what works is just throwing really big rocks really, really fast. The universe was a more interesting place with humans in it. More dangerous, certainly. More unpredictable, absolutely. But definitely more interesting. Somewhere on Earth, in a locked facility that officially didn't exist, engineers were gathered around a prototype weapon that shouldn't have worked according to conventional physics. So, one of them said, what if we made the tungsten rod spin? The others considered this. That's stupid, someone said. I know, the first engineer replied. Let's try it. The galaxy was never going to be the same.